If anyone is in Christ, there is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. Welcome to the Word for Wednesday for March 8th, 2023. During the season of Lent, we've been talking about emotional healthy spirituality. This last Sunday, we dealt with the idea of going back in order to go forward and breaking through the metaphorical spiritual wall that we all face in our walk with Christ. One of my favorite stories is about a woman who had a deeply important and powerful relationship with Jesus. She would pray earnestly and read her scriptures and attend church and be a part of the Christian community. During this relationship, she had an amazing and wonderful experience where she was visited by Christ one night. They had a wonderful visit and talked about all things in her life, past, present, and future. She came to church the next Sunday and shared the experience with her pastor. The pastor was a bit skeptical. He had never experienced something like this before, and he was very surprised. The woman was insistent that Jesus did show up and did have a conversation with her, and was very excited about it. So the pastor challenged her. He said, "Well, if Jesus shows up again, what I want you to do is I want you to ask him about the sin that your pastor did so many years ago that he just can't forget." The woman agreed. So the next week, she went home and continued to pray and anticipated Jesus showing up. Jesus did, and the next Sunday, she came to church with a smile on her face, just waiting to share the information with her pastor. At the conclusion of the service, she walked up to her pastor, and her pastor could tell that she wanted to say something. So he asked, "Did Jesus show up?" She said, "Certainly he did." And the pastor was a little bit reluctant, but asked her, "So, did you ask him the question about your pastor's sin? The sin that's just ravaged his life and that he just can't forget?" The woman smiled big and said, "Yes, I did. I did ask him." The pastor was uncertain of the answer, was not sure he wanted to hear, but he asked anyway. "Well, what did Jesus say?" She smiled even bigger and said, "Jesus said he can't remember." In Psalm 103, verse 12, it says, "How far has the Lord done away with our sin? As far as the east is from the west." In 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 17, we're reminded that in Christ we're a new person. The old things that once were are not anymore. Psalms reminds us that our sin is forgiven in God, that he is compassionate, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love. In order to be emotional, healthy, spiritual people, we must deal with our past. We must understand that every person that comes out of their family of origin comes out with disappointment and pain and regret and sorrow. There's trauma that faces each and every one of us, regardless of how wonderful our families are. There are things we learn in our families that need to be evaluated and changed. There's also many things that can be celebrated from our families, and we should honor God with that. But in order to be emotional, healthy, spiritual beings, we must take seriously our past, but also remember that our future is bright with God, that we've been invited and adopted into God's family so that we can be better. This week, I invite you to take some time to think about these two passages, one from 2 Corinthians and one from Psalms, to look at the context of each of these verses and remind yourself of how wonderful God has been to you and will continue to be with you as he develops you into the person he needs and wants you to be so that you can have the fullness of Christ in your life. God bless you and have a great day.